According to today's Guardian, how many students are expected to be left without a place at university this year due to a record number of applications? The answer is 170,000.
Henry, what's making the news today?
Right, Nihal, I'll start with the Times and obviously the fascinating twist in this Charles Taylor trial where Mia Farrow has come and said that Naomi's testimony of not really knowing where the diamonds came from is actually false. She said that in fact, Miss Campbell had said at breakfast that she'd been given a huge diamond by Mr. Taylor. So bringing that obviously into question whether Naomi's telling the truth. But the sad thing about this trial is the focus has shifted to Naomi Campbell. We've forgotten there's a dictator on trial for human rights abuses, so I think that's quite unfortunate.
Yeah, but in a way, don't you think it's a good thing that it's brought it into mainstream? Because a lot of people wouldn't have known about it had it not been for Naomi Campbell.
Can't disagree.
They've heard of Liberia, would they have known what's going on in Sierra Leone? But I presume it's some kind of vehicle. Although it's weird that she would boast about a diamond. I can't imagine her being materialistic in any way.
Right, second story from the Daily Express. It's about Billy Joe Foster. His dad obviously went to prison for 6 years, spent their time, was cleared on appeal, I believe. And the government has rules that state that if you haven't been found to be clearly innocent, you can't claim compensation. And this is what he's tried to do. He's tried to claim £500,000. And that has been turned down by the government because his acquittal was not unanimous. The jury were not sure whether they could actually say he was clearly innocent. Also in the Daily Express, this amazing feat by the first man to walk the Amazon. He's a Brit called Ed Stafford. This guy is a legend. He walked 6,000 miles in 859 days. He averaged about 3.5 miles a day. He lived on piranha fish, believe it or not, which is probably the nicest.
Live on him.
Yes, absolutely. And he caught some weird skin disfiguring disease. So this guy is a legend, and he did it all to raise awareness on the destruction of the Amazon rainforest. So I think he deserves a round of applause. And his first wish is for a pint of beer and some fish when he arrives, I think, tomorrow. So.
Fish? You think fish should be the last thing on his mind, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And finally, there's this wonderful picture in the Daily Mail of a really cute lion, and sort of harkens back to the Lion King.
How cute is that?
Isn't that amazing? One day, son, you'll be the Lion King.
Oh, so that is beautiful. Natalie.
Oh, and on that bombshell, let me bring some sunshine into your lives by telling you that everything is going up in price. It's in today's Sun. Beer, petrol, rail fares, insurance, bread, mortgages, everything is gonna get more expensive. One interesting twist to this, though, it's not just about the economy. A global shortage of wheat sparked by those wildfires in Russia is also likely to put 10 pence on a loaf. It's quite interesting, if a bit depressing. And then a double whammy. Front page of the Times. Housing market stalls as economy splutters. Oh, no. Sorry.
Can we get the lion and the lion come back up again?
I don't want to read it. No, enough. First-time buyers are really struggling because they can't afford the deposits because they're not getting such big...
35 grand now, the average deposit?
Yes.
£35,000.
And obviously, in the good old days of getting, you know, 95, 100% mortgages, happy
you know
days.
what, I think...
You mean the good old days that got us all in this mess in the first place?
I think that it's not a bad... There's a part of it that's not a bad thing that suddenly, you know, we had this divine right about 15 years ago that everyone's got to own their own property. And then you get into this blooming mess that we're in now. That still, you know, in Paris, there's a vast amount of people in Paris still rent. It's not that they're not allowed. Of course, you're allowed. I'm not saying you're not allowed.
They have the right to pass something on to their children.
But I think there's it's become this peculiarly British thing that we have to own many properties. And there's a raft of programmes telling you that, you know, how you buy to let mortgages. Let's just get back to just renting a place for a little bit and accruing a bit of wealth personally and getting rid of your own personal debt. And I speak as someone who's fallen victim to all of this. So, you know, grow up and stop thinking that you have to have a property. You know, I think it's not a bad thing to rent. You know?
Oh, the voice.
Well, this should put a smile back on your face because this couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Remember the lotto louts? The guy who won 9.7 million. Well, he sold his home at a 600 grand loss. But look at the state that place was in. What a scummer. And hopefully that is the very last we will hear of him.
Good grief. Who does his interiors? Serial killers? I mean, that's horrible, isn't it?
And my final story from today's Telegraph. Now, this just looks wicked. I so want to give this a go. This is a mile-long zip wire. It's going to be built up in the Lake District.
Okay, well, explain what a zip wire is for people who
where you hold
think
on and you just rag it down at serious speed. Down a mountain.
Right, OK.
Beautiful.
And that's your idea of fun, is it?
I mean, amazing. I cannot think of a better adrenaline rush. You basically walk all the way up. It's about 2,000 feet peak, all the way to the top.
Yeah.
And when you're absolutely knackered and you can't walk back down again, you just get on this wire and
hold
whiz
on
all the
with
way
your
back.
hands, with your bare hands, for a mile.
Hair like that.
Safety?
Yeah, right.
It's like natural Botox. You're like... Brilliant.
OK,
Sign me up.
Yeah, I bet you'll be one of the first on that.
If you're suffering
Steve.
from constipation, also very, very useful.
Whoa, are there any houses under that? That's true, actually,
Right, OK.
for a mile. Right,
First story is in The Guardian, and basically, this is the time when a lot of students are waiting to go to university. If you know, a lot of people know what university they're already going to go to because they'll have had they kind of know the A-level results, or they've been accepted.
grades, yeah.
Yeah, but those of you who don't and are waiting for places, you go into this clearing system where last-minute places are offered to students with sometimes better results than they thought. Unfortunately, Birmingham, Bristol, Edinburgh and Warwick, if you want to go to these universities, you can't because they're full. Sorry, that's the news. Yeah, suck it up. Unfortunately, if you make the A-levels so easy, there are more people wanting to go to university. It's up by 11.6% this year. And unfortunately, the amount of places haven't tallied. So,
Gosh.
you know, it's not so much fun if you're waiting to go to uni. Daily Mail. Mood of the Daily Mail today is... Really? Really? This is about it's not a funny story. This is about the Lockerbie bomber, al-Megrahi. A year ago, almost exactly, was released from hospital prison to go back home, and where, of course, he was treated as a hero. The relatives of the families from Lockerbie quite rightly want an investigation into the medical records because he was kind of on compassionate grounds. He was permitted to go back home to die after 3 months. Well, a year on, he's still alive. There were 4 doctors were treating him, and only one basically said that he was going to die. So they want a thorough investigation into this.
Yeah, go on now.
No, listen, I'm a big conspiracy theorist anyway, but isn't it the case that they thought that the...
Our lawyers love that, by the way.
Yeah. OK. Yeah, I bet they do.
Don't mention drilling or anything.
No, I'm not going to talk about BP. I'm talking about... I said I wouldn't mention any other oil company of that kind. Yes.
Or any company.
The fact that his appeal, his
That would be
lawyers were going to
amazing,
appeal
wouldn't
the
it? If
conviction in
Argos
the first
moved in
place.
because of it.
So they gave him compassionate leave.
Yeah.
Oh, shut up, shall I?
No, I mean, it would be interesting to see, actually, an investigation into the business dealings between the West and Libya in that year.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the fact his lawyers were going to appeal the safety of his conviction in the first place. So they gave him compassionate leave so that they wouldn't do that.
Right.
Because the general consensus is he didn't do it.
Right.
Somebody had to be held accountable.
You're right. That he may have been a fall guy for it. There was that story going around as well. OK, Steve.
The next one is back in The Guardian. This is picking up on the awful disaster in Pakistan, which I talked about yesterday. Basically, this natural disaster, the flooding and the kind of fallout from that is going to affect more people than any other natural disaster that we've had. It's now predicted 13.8 million people will be affected by this. Yeah, obviously, it's a very densely populated part of the world, and it's...
The size of England, as we were saying yesterday.
And this isn't necessarily, the 1,600 people have died so far, and that will obviously rise. But it's just the fallout from that, and how many people will be homeless and how many people will kind of be rendered ill from it. I mean, it's an awful, awful story. So Put your hand in your pocket. You know, there are a lot of appeals for money on the radio and on TV. And the last story is in the Daily Telegraph, and this is one dear to my heart, that if you're suffering a midlife crisis, it used to be getting yourself a motorbike or maybe a Porsche. Now it's getting on a really expensive road bike. That sales of bikes, particularly in the 35 to 45-year-old category, are going through the roof, and people are spending thousands on these incredible carbon fibre frame bikes. And I'm a fanatical cyclist. I love cycling. And
I love the idea. I love the idea of cycling. I just don't want to see 45-year-old men in lycra.
That's not what you said when you popped the tenner into that.
That was a misunderstanding. He had long hair. Yes. Anyway, let's move on, shall we?